Good evening and welcome to the August 9th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. As we always do, can we please first stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just two quick notes. If obviously we're back to the mask due to the Delta. If anybody can't hear, there's hearing assisted devices that we have in the back, which will help you. And obviously we have the screens here. In addition, we've added a meeting. There was such a need, I guess, to get on this meeting that we've added next week. It's going to be a work session, August 16th, 2021, 7 o'clock. And I believe, Robin, it is at the Underhill Building? No, it's here.
It's here.
It's here, sorry. So we've added a meeting to next week. We do have a long agenda tonight, so we'll try to speed it as long as the best we can. First, we have correspondence. And we have the agenda for next meeting. There is a resolution that was redone for Nantucket Sound. Do we need to talk about that, Robin?
Do
John?
you want to take a vote to change it?
Should we do that now or wait until can we do it now?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a altered resolution approving a site plan, stormwater management plan, and tree removal permit for Nantucket Sounds LLC. Has everybody had the chance to review that?
Yes, we did.
I think actually we're just going to change it so it's resolution approving a site plan.
Resolution approving a site plan.
Yeah.
Okay, none of the rest. Any issues from the board?
No.
John?
No issues, just it's a really correct for the audience, it's a correction.
Correction, correction, yes.
No issues.
Jim, no issues? All right, so do we have a motion for the aforementioned?
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And Joe Rena's here, right? Joe, I see you got the Atlantic Appliance from New York City? How are you?
Good. Correct. Yes, we received that approval.
I'm just curious, how long did they have it?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Mhm.
So, as per this, you're all set then?
Yep. After that, we've checked all the boxes.
And
He's ready to roll?
What's that?
He's ready to roll? He's ready to...
Yes, he is. They're working on the construction drawings for the building right now, and then once they're done, he can file for the building permit.
all right, but it was a year and a half with them.
Yeah.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we have draft minutes. This is for the meeting minutes of July 12th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes?
Any issues? No?
No issues here?
Anything from John?
Nothing from us.
Nothing
Jim?
from us.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 12th, 2021?
I'll make a motion.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to move on to the regular portion of the meeting. First, we have the Canelli Minor Subdivision. This is a request for a second 90-day time extension. Location is 2777 Quinlan Street. Hey,
Hello.
Joe.
Joseph Rena, Principal Site Design Consultants, representing Mr. Gallinelli. Mr. Gallinelli is requesting to extend his approval, and he's not in a position at this point to proceed with the project, but he would like to keep it open. So if things change for him, he can proceed.
Okay. Any issues from the board?
No.
John?
No issues.
Jim?
Nothing from us.
Okay, do I have a motion then to extend or
Motion.
grant the request for the second 90-day time extension? We get a motion? Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have up the Staples Plaza self-storage expansion. This is a public hearing, special use permit. Location is 3333 Compound Road. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, you're on.
Thank you. Chris Raffaelli with Studio Architecture, representing Erstad Biddle Properties, the owner of the Staples Plaza. And we're originally seeking 3 different approvals. One was for an addition of a display unit on the front of the building. The second one is an expansion of extra space storage to the main floor, and the construction of an entrance on the rear yard of the property to gain access to that upper level. Since then, Erstad Biddle has removed and withdrawn the application for those storage units that appeared on the front of the Staples end of the building. Still moving forward, of course, with the special use permit expansion for upstairs and the rear yard. So the original square footage calculation was roughly about 16,000 square feet of additional storage space upstairs, and that encompassed maybe 2/3 of the vacant AC Moore space. Since then, and the original plan was some smaller tenants might lease that front piece of AC Moore. Those things are not really shaken out that well. So we'd like to increase the possibility of extra space expanding into the entirety of the AC Moore space, which is another 5,300 square feet. One of the difficulties with that is now the extra space would then touch the facade. Currently there's glass. So we'd have to change the glass to some sort of spandrel or tint so the units couldn't be seen or accessed from the front of the building.
Okay.
Would you have access to the space from the plaza, or would you have to go around the back?
The only access to that upper level
Yeah.
would be in the back, kind of behind where the mattress store is, in that area, or from within the extra space through a new staircase.
Yeah, they were in front of us once before. So this is a public hearing, so anybody from the audience, which we haven't seen this many people in a long time in here. Anybody has any comments, concerns, please come up and ask your questions. I see everybody's running up at once. Any concerns or questions from the board at this point? How long has this space been vacant?
AC Moore's been gone less than a year.
Less than a year?
Yeah.
Okay. John, any issues on planning end?
No, we have no issues for planning.
And I guess the violations, everything is over?
Yeah, they removed the display doors.
Yep.
Which was, specific in the law. And it really is essentially an interior expansion of the
Right.
use.
Mhm.
Still access from the rear, so it's
Right.
No real change.
fine.
Any issue on your end, Jim?
Nothing from me.
Okay. I don't think there's anything on the town engineers in this one. So that being said, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and special use permit for the Staples Plaza self-storage expansion?
Motion.
Is there,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, in front of us, we have a neg deck for the same project. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have a resolution approving an amended special use permit for self-storage within a retail shopping center for the Staples Plaza Shopping Center.
There you go.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just like to clarify that we can include that additional square footage in that resolution.
Why not?
For taking up the front
The
spot.
front piece,
Internal.
yeah.
Why don't you make a condition that they have to submit an
The plan.
elevation of the front? Okay,
Sure.
so you said you're not going to be accessing from the front?
Well, not, right,
Okay, so if you could just show what that will look like as a condition,
sure.
and then I think it continues to just be an expansion that complies with the
Right.
special permit.
Okay,
All right,
thank
so
you.
as per noted.
Mhm.
Right?
Good, thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
Take care. Okay, next we have another public hearing for the EnviroGreen Associates, This location is varied on East Main Street, Mohegan Lake. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. You know, and it disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah. That is at the bottom.
What's that? Well. Okay. This is not gonna work. Come on.
Joe, you want a chair?
This thing, I don't know how to turn this stupid thing off. Keep getting NFL updates. All right.
If anything important happens, let us know.
Yes. I'm having some issues here, it's not cooperating. Okay, we're gonna have to go with this. Good evening, Joseph Rena, the Principal of Site Design Consultants, representing Enviro Green Associates, for a property located at 1851 East Main Street, Mohegan. This project has been before you for several years. And back in 2017, the Planning Board held a public hearing on a different site plan than which we're going to present tonight, which was a preferred plan, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So the property is, I don't know what's going on. This thing is just frozen up on me here. Excuse me, gonna have to open it again. Okay, well, we have a technical difficulty because I can't even get out of this thing now.
Does Robin have your plans?
I do.
Do a control, delete, and
That's what I'm trying.
bring up your tasks.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
So,
If that doesn't work, I'll give it to Robin and have her,
Head northeast.
Anybody else hear Waze? Directions.
Robin, how are you with this PowerPoint?
Want me to bring my grandson here?
I think you had it.
I know.
I think you had it a second ago.
Yeah, okay.
Not now.
He's 13 years old. He
Do
does
what you
everything.
did before.
You need the young ones.
Yeah, but it's not giving me control on this side. Let's start from beginning. Yeah,
The arrow key won't let you move over?
here we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yep, okay.
See, I can do some tech stuff.
Yeah. you can. So this is a current aerial view of the property. The property is 8.8 acres in total, consisting of two parcels. Giving me So this is a property line right here dividing the two parcels, so you can see the larger of it is to the left. The area, the site currently contains two buildings on it. This is a building that was approved, has site plan approval. It has Dunkin' Donuts in it, has a restaurant in it, so you're probably familiar with that building. The main entrance is here to the west side of the property. As you go into the site, there's another building here with some retail uses. As you get towards the back of the site, you can see most of the site's been already improved and developed, and almost our entire footprint of our proposal is within that developed area. The smaller parcel to the east once contained a residence which was a residential housing unit that was taken down. Was really not a safe building, so that was taken down, and the site at this point remains vacant. Off to the back here, you see a water body here, which is a stormwater basin that was constructed for the original project, which is this building here. The remainder of the site back in here is all New York State DEC wetland, which Steve Marino, our environmental consultant, will give you a review on that. By the way, Rick Cipriani, the property owner, is with us tonight. So again, this is the existing conditions. The site is, as I said, the area that we're proposing to construct a new building and parking area is mostly already developed. This is the site plan that the planning board held a public hearing on in 2017. It had two buildings totaling 16,000 square feet. And the important part of this site plan is this through connection that connected the site to the west to the site on the east, which allowed to direct traffic flow onto Lakeland Street and out to the traffic light. That was the original master plan idea that the planning board way back had, and actually there was accommodations made in the curbs back in here to allow that access to go through. So this is the plan we went. This required filling in DEC wetlands. This is the plan that the planning board sent us off to the DEC with in 2017. And during that missing or that absence from being in front of you, we were with the DEC trying to convince them that this was the best plan and the plan to go with. The planning board sent a letter of support to the DEC explaining their position, and they shot us down repeatedly, and we're back with a new site plan. So the new site plan is for a single building. It's just under 14,000 square feet. There are two entrances proposed to the site. The main entrance, which is existing now, is going to remain, and a new entrance here, which it's not a new entrance, it's an existing curb cut. We're going to maintain that. As part of this project, we are eliminating 3 other curb cuts. As you can see, there is no through connection through the back here to allow traffic from the west to flow through to Lakeland Street. So that's been eliminated as per the DEC's requirement of us not to fill in the wetland. So, as I said, the main entrance is here, right to the new building, is right directly in front of the building. There's circulation around the building. There's 2 sets of trash enclosures being proposed, one here and one here. This one would be for the existing building to the west, and this one here would be for the new building. We're providing access to the site on the corner. I don't know what the address is of that site, but the site on the corner of Lakeland and Route 6. We're providing an exit point for them to get out, because they have parking in front of the building to get out and make an exit off the site without backing out onto Route 6. It's not a good situation there. The building is going to be 1 story in height. The improvements that we're proposing are totally contained on the upland side of the wetland, so we're not encroaching in the wetland in any way. We're providing stormwater controls and management, which we've prepared a SWIP, and that's been submitted. You can see the parking spaces appear to be shaded. Those spaces are going to be porous pavement. There are additional parking spaces that we're showing back here, which at this point we're going to call them land banks parking spaces, and those parking spaces are there to bring us. We basically, what we did was, when we did an analysis of the parking for the proposed building, we assumed a certain size restaurant in there. If in the event that that was one of the tenants, so we wanted to show the maximum impact that the site could have if, in fact, there was a restaurant as part of that space and additional retail, in addition to the retail uses that could go in there. This is a more detailed look at some of the improvements. So that stormwater pond that I mentioned that was in the back of the site, which is right here, that is going to be retrofit. There's invasive species that have gotten in there. It's gotten silted in. So what we're going to do is we're going to retrofit it, bring it up to today's standards, and it's going to manage all the stormwater on the site, the original existing impervious areas, as well as anything new that we're creating. There's a landscape plan we submitted. Basically, we're recreating the streetscape here because the DOT is requiring a 5-foot snow shelf off the edge of Route 6, much like we had to do in front of the Audi dealership and the Volkswagen dealership down the road. So that pushes the sidewalk back. That affects the existing trees that are there. Those are going to have to be removed, and we're recreating that streetscape. And as you can see, there's other landscaping proposed around the site. There's green area or landscape area proposed in front of the building, which is actually part of our stormwater management aspect of the project. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask Steve to come up and take you through his presentation. Arrows? Just hit the arrows. I don't know what's going on.
All right. We'll make it work. Good evening, Steve Marino, Tim Miller Associates. And for the record, I will not mention any specific invasive species that may be on the site or may not be on the site this evening. As Joe mentioned, there is a New York State DEC wetland on the north side of the site, which is also regulated by the town. And as he also discussed with you, we went through a number of years trying to negotiate with the DEC to put together a plan that would work with the master plan of the town to have a bypass access behind the site. We had begun discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers as well, because we did have federal wetland fill at that time. We had off-site mitigation proposed. There were a number of other aspects to the overall plan, and in the end, the DEC just wouldn't budge on the idea of that bypass road. So we're back now with the new site plan. And based on this site plan now, we no longer have any DEC or town wetland encroachment with this project. The entire developed area of the project is in fact buffer. And it's, as you know, it's currently developed already. Let me see if I can go back up to that aerial photo. Okay. So, my aerials are in there too, yeah. So as you can see, front portion of the frontage on Route 6 is currently developed, 2 separate buildings, parking, and access to that detention basin in the back of the property. Beyond that is the state wetland, which drains through the neighborhood to the north and ultimately to Peekskill Hollow Brook. So recognizing that the wetland is in a disturbed state, as most of the wetlands on the north side of Route 6 are, and we'll have a discussion about another project later this evening, we've prepared a mitigation plan. Joe, is there a way to, how do I blow it up, though?
I think you're going to have to go with it.
One of these things? All right, I'll leave it like that. What we're proposing then is an invasive species management plan that will include removal of debris, shopping carts, et cetera, that may have wound up in the wetland during the years of development of the site, as well as removal of invasive species and replanting with native species all along the buffer and just inside the wetland. So we're calling that a wetland enhancement and restoration plan, along with the expansion of the existing detention basin that's on the property. If we go back and look at the history of the site, you can see in that 2000 aerial, in the upper left there, at that time, the site was not developed. There was the one existing building on the east side of the house, east side of the property. But other than that, the wetland and associated buffer came right up to Main Street. In the 2004 area, you can see the new building that was constructed, which now houses the Dunkin' Donuts and other buildings, other own residents, retailers. And then you can see there in the upper part of that picture, you can see the detention basin that was constructed as part of that expanded development of the site. And then below is the 2018 aerial, which again shows that basin. Now it would be considered part of the wetland, as it has developed wetland hydrology and wetland plant community around it. But again, the problem on the site and in the immediate area is the invasive species that have gotten in, so we do have a plan for expansion of that pond as well as cleanup of the vegetation in the pond. Right there. Okay. So we have presented, again, a planting plan that enhances the buffer and the wetland and an invasive species an invasive species removal program. The parking, as Joe mentioned, will all be, much of it will be porous pavement in order to reduce the amount and reduce the amount of runoff getting into the wetland as well as the quality of the runoff getting into the wetland. And we will now be providing stormwater management and treatment where historically up to this point there hasn't been any. I think that's all you need to know. Oh, now it blows up. Fixed it. I don't know, but I fixed it.
Okay.
I think that's it. So if there are other questions,
Thank you.
right here.
This is the last time I'm doing this, I think. All right, let's see. Okay. The architect couldn't be here this evening, so I'm going to do my best to present the architectural part of the project. As you can see, there's a focus to the center entry. The center entry portion of the building is recessed in, so it's not continuous front, straight front. You can see that there's a central fake dormer with faux glass along the front there, and you have two smaller dormers on each side of that. This is really, conceptual, and it really doesn't mean a lot because at some point, once the owner gets a tenant, the face of the building may change, but But in general, this look will be maintained, the roof line will be maintained. It's just a matter of the makeup of the tenant space. This has been before BACA. BACA has made some comments on it. It's been to BACA a couple of times. The last kind of fine point that that was being worked out with the BACA, and we haven't been back to them yet, and we have to get back to them. But in the front of the building here, there's quite an overhang here, and there's two options. One with columns extended out beyond the sidewalk line, and the other would be without columns. We told them we would show it to them both ways, so we've got to get back to them and let them see how it's going to look with or without the column line. This is just a simple floor plan of, possible way to cut up the tenant space. Again, you could see the recessed front entry area of the building. This is a two-dimensional color view of the building, and we have a three-dimensional rendering of the building looking from street view, and you can get a flavor for the colors and the landscaping that's being proposed for it. Any questions? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, so I know there's people from the audience here on this one. So if you would just come up one at a time, state your name, address, and ask your question. So the floor is yours now. Anybody from the public? Nobody? All right. I do want to mention that we were looking back at the beginning. This came to the town in February 2014 as a pre-preliminary application, so it's 7 years old. And I know that the planning department and the applicant worked tirelessly on the first iteration of the project, and the DEC shot it down, and they've been back and forth for some time to work on it, and this is the outcome of that. Is Dan here? Oh, Dan is back there. Dan, any questions, anything you want to add?
Good evening.
How are you?
All right.
Good.
We've had the full package now. It's pretty well developed. So really, we just need to do a deep dive into their stormwater plan, just make sure everything complies. But there's really no issue with the fundamental layout or anything like that. And obviously, the wetlands was really the linchpin to this whole thing. Getting that resolved allows the application to move forward. So,
Okay, and I saw the Conservation Board is happy with the current plan.
right.
Okay.
And the DEC, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, well, they were the, thank you.
Thank you.
John, any issues on your end?
The only thing that I have left is just fine-tuning the landscaping plan and basically the hardscape plan. I mentioned the last time that this was before the board, that the approach to the building may need some work in terms of its width, meaning the sidewalk and so on and so forth, and the approaches from the parking lot into the building. So those are the only things.
Okay. Jim?
Nothing from me, except you should probably keep the hearing open until you hear from Abaca.
Understood. Be sure. Please, John, what's up? How are you?
Get at least one question from
There you go.
Doesn't seem right. John Flynn, Woodsbrook Lane. Just one thing that I've followed this as you've discussed it, and I'm trying to recall when I was on the board and we reviewed the original plan. But it would seem that a project like this that builds a 13,000 square foot building on Route 6, which is so congested with traffic. I mean, when we consider all the people who poured into your hearing when you were considering the fast food restaurant just down the block, And just wanted to know what traffic studies have been done for this. And my recollection is that under the old plan, there wasn't a big traffic impact, but does the new revised project change that at all?
Okay, thanks, John. I do know that the two changes that Mr. Reyna mentioned were the curb cuts that are being taken off of Route 6
correct.
and the cut through to Lakeland.
Yeah, so Mr. Greeley, Dr. Greeley couldn't be here this evening, but he did a traffic study at the time when we were looking at the plan in 2017. And since then, the size of the project has gotten reduced. So we were at 16,000 square feet. Now we're under 14. The number of curb cuts is identical. So if anything, we can, I think, safely say that the traffic load is going to be less.
When you say identical to the original plan,
Correct.
so they're still
This-
down 3.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anything from the board?
Why can't we close the public hearing?
We're still waiting on something from John and Abaca. So we'll hold the public hearing open until we hear from them?
Yeah, but
All right.
they were notified. Why didn't they get
It
their
just-
letters in?
Well, it's not just Abaca, it's also John is waiting, so our professional staff is waiting. So, all right, so we will hold this open until further notice. Missing anything?
Nothing.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to move
Gonna
next.
Vote to adjourn?
Oh, yes. Do I have a vote to adjourn or hold open the meeting? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? I apologize. Oh, my God. Okay. Next, we have the Grijaz major subdivision. I know I said that wrong. This is a public informational hearing. Location is 3319 Stony Street. Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'm trying. Again with this PowerPoint.
I think next time we have to have a high school student here to assist.
Actually, I was thinking my goddaughter, but she's only 7.
That'll work.
The younger, the better.
Yeah,
What's that?
I would just make it a PDF
I think
next
that's what I'm
time.
going to do the next time.
might be a little late, but try to get it to bed early.
I don't know what's going on. I work at the office. Okay, good evening. Joseph Rena, the Principal Site Design Consultant, representing Nicola Corsage, who's proposing a 10-lot subdivision on a property he owns at 3319 Stony Street. The property is owned R120. It is bound by Stony Street. North Shelley Street comes into the property, as well as Sunny, what is it, Sunny Court and High Point Drive. Sunny Ridge Court and High Point Drive. This is an aerial photo of the property in 2010. As you can see, at that time, there was a residence on the property, which had a driveway access off of Stony Street. There's also a smaller building on the property here and a large barn over in this area of the property. There, you can see in the green dash line here, wetland which is on the property. It's a local wetland, which Steve Marino will get into in a moment. This is a public informational hearing, so it's not the formal hearing. So it's basically a preliminary look and to let the the neighboring properties know what's going on the site. So the proposal is, as I said, to subdivide this into 10 lots. The property will be accessed mainly off a High Point Drive and to allow for proper planning and proper traffic flow and safe traffic flow. Shelley is also going to be tied into the end of Shelley, which both those roads were intended to be extended through. Their right-of-ways went right up to the property line for this, to this property, so it was always master planned by the planning board back when those subdivisions were created to allow the road to go through. So as you can see, there are 2 lots when you first come in on either side of the Shelley, here and here, and as you make your way in, you start to see the lots making their surrounding the cul-de-sac, the proposed cul-de-sac. This area in here is where most of the wetland is being contained and is therefore being left preserved, and that is the location where we're going to have some mitigation also for the project. At this point, we haven't formally done much of the engineering that needs to be done yet. As I said, this is a preliminary plan. We've worked out some of the grading on the road and around the different homes that are being proposed. We've identified some stormwater areas which we have yet to investigate. We're looking in this location here, and each individual residents would have their own potential stormwater management system. When we last met, we discussed possibly reworking these properties that back up to Stony Street so that the houses are not the back of the houses, and rather the side of the houses would be on the Stony Street side. Frankly, we haven't gotten to do that yet. We're trying to line up our stormwater testing and start to figure out how we're going to finally position everything on the site. All the lots meet the zoning requirements, and we're not asking for any variances at this point. Steve, you wanna?
Good evening again. As Joe mentioned, there is a wetland on the site. I didn't do that. I'm not.
Oh, no.
Maybe we should start with turning the volume down, Joe.
I don't know what we should do.
Okay. Here's this is the 2010 aerial. As you can see, on the western side of the property, there is a wetland that was flagged. I flagged that back in September. I also flagged it a number of years ago. It's been out there several times for this property. And the wetland there really is derived from runoff. As the properties around it became developed, more of the runoff ended up on this property, particularly from the south. As you can see, there's that little tongue kind of that sticks down to the south. That was really generated by runoff coming off of Shelley and through the property, eventually settling in the lower portion behind the old barn there on the northern end of the property. Since that time, there have been drainage improvements in the neighborhood, and much of that water is now cut off. I've been visiting this site on and off for the last 10 years, and each time I go, the wetland is a little bit drier. We've been working on the tree survey out on the property over the last month, and there's no standing water, no flowing water anywhere on the property. Even the wetter areas in the wintertime are dry right now. It's, like I say, the water's been cut off, so the wetland is kind of starting to shrink as they do over time if the water supply is cut off. Due to the configuration of the proposed road, there will be some fill brought in to fill in that tongue of the property to get the road across to the cul-de-sac and make available the connection to Shelley to the south. As part of that plan, we're proposing to, where's the mitigation plan? Yeah. The area in red is the area that will be filled. The areas in yellow are areas where the wetland could be expanded. The property immediately to the west of our site there on the north side of High Point is an old town stormwater management area that was connected when High Point was brought down to the property line. So there is water from High Point flowing into there, and we would steal some of that water to make the wetland, to expand the wetland and make that work, and provide enough hydrology to keep that wetland as a wetland. We haven't fleshed out the details of the mitigation area yet, but the area is relatively flat, so it would only take minor grading to accomplish the kind of elevations we would need. There's a number of trees on the site, particularly on the western half of the property. Most of them are 8 to 12-inch red maples, as you'd expect to find in this kind of a landscape. We have been working on, there it is, the tree survey. We've identified a number of very large trees on the property. Black walnuts, oaks, some pines, catalpa, which is relatively unusual tree to get to a significant size in our area. There are some big ones out there. So we're identifying the location of those trees. As Joe mentioned, the house sites aren't finalized yet between stormwater, and we're going to do what we can to kind of see what trees can be, which of the larger trees on the site can be preserved as we move forward. The site's currently coming in, the curb cut is off of Stony Street, heading into the property, and that's where some of the largest trees are as a lane for the old house site. And I think a number of those larger trees are out of the way for where the development is proposed. So we'll be able to save a lot of those. I really think that's it. We can go through my favorites, the historical aerials. You can see this is a 1947 aerial photo, except for a couple of the larger trees there on the eastern end of the site, closest to Stony Street. The site was clear cut. You can see the barn there on the north side of the property. There were no trees in that northern half. So all the trees that are there now are 50 years old or less. It's 1960. Again, the western part of the site doesn't have any trees. There was an old farm lane, it looks like, that came into the property through there. But most of the larger trees are on the east side. And in these photographs, we'll go back to 47, and we'll also go back to 1960, no wetland. You don't see the usual telltales of what a wetland would look like in a black and white aerial photograph aren't there. So it's really when those properties to the south, which again were farmland back in 1960, once those started to be developed is when the water changed and more water ended up on this site. Here's the 1976, and you can see the houses to the south, and you can see the trees starting to fill in on the property, on the Grichage parcel. And as we move forward, before we get to the public hearing, certainly, we'll have a more detailed wetland mitigation plan and planting plan, restoration, buffer plan, et cetera. And we'll work with Joe on both the tree protection and design of landscaping of the stormwater management basins. Soils. Go back to there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do me a favor, can you just go back to the aerial? Yeah, if you could leave it there, please, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so this is a public informational. This is obviously to get the public engaged. If anybody's got any concerns or questions. So again, I would believe there's someone here to talk to this. If you do want to come up, just state your name and address, if you could at one time, please. How are you?
My name is Rob Buchanan. I live on 3318 South Shelley Street, which is the last house on the northern end of South Shelley Street before the development. I have three concerns that I would like the board to consider. First one is the traffic. By putting the extension of South Shelley Street connecting into High Point, I think will cause a large increase in the amount of traffic flowing onto South Shelley Street. not only will I think the new houses, the traffic from the new houses will outflow onto South Shelley and so on to Judy and so on to Stony, because it makes sense for them to go that way rather than going out High Point and around the block, either to Judy or onto Spruce. And also I think some of the residents from Spruce and High Point will also use South Shelley as a way to get onto Judy and onto Stony Street. So what now is a calm, peaceful dead end and cul-de-sac will become a busy thoroughfare. And if you come down there any afternoon, and the residents who will tell you there are people walking their dogs, there are kids riding bicycles and skateboards. It's a calm, peaceful place for people to exercise and use. With that increased traffic, it's going to be a very much changed atmosphere, and also much more dangerous. I'm not sure if traffic studies have been done, but the intersection between Stony and Judy, with the increased traffic because of the Granite Knolls ball fields, it's become a more dangerous intersection, and more traffic from this development will make that an even more dangerous intersection. So that's one point. The second point is the wetlands, and I respect your opinion about this, but you know, all the times I've walked back there, the ground is very soggy. No matter what time of year, it's always soggy. And it's been that way for a long, long time. So whatever wetlands evaluation has been submitted to the board, I would hope the town really looks at that very carefully. Because to me, it's not like obvious marshland, but the ground is very soggy for most of that area. So please consider that. Please look at the wetlands very carefully. And the last point, which is probably the most important point, is the quality of life. How this development will affect our quality of life. For the 20 plus years my wife and I have lived in our house, we've woken up every morning and seen that beautiful patch of trees. You know, or the old farm. We could barely make out the old farm, and it's a great place to live. And now, in this current plan, if this goes through as it's planned, we will look at 4 houses, the back of 4 houses. So, and who knows with the construction, who knows what that's going to do for our property values. So the quality of life will definitely be diminished because of this development. So please take that into account if there's some kind of buffer zone or trees or whatever that can be left, because it really will change the character of the neighbourhood. And I think as a planning board, you should consider that as a factor when you're looking at new developments. So those 3 points again: the traffic, the wetlands, and the quality of life. Please consider those. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next. How are you?
Good evening. Joe Costelli, 1306 Lydia Court. I happen to be on the exact opposite side of my neighbor Rob there. And I'd just like to reiterate what he said. We didn't really talk, and it's amazing because those are 3 of the of my concerns. The traffic itself, I think, is taking a dead-end area or I guess it's not a cul-de-sac on that end, but where Shelley ends, and making that a through street. Again, it's going to increase traffic flow up Judy onto Shelley into a very quiet residential neighborhood. I don't have young kids anymore. I don't know if anybody in the audience is from our neighborhood, but there are tons of young families in this neighborhood. And I'm sure they bought their houses because of the makeup of the neighborhood, the access that it provided, that it was not a busy trafficked area. And the concern is that exactly what my neighbor said. People will use that. That seems the most likely thing. I read some stuff from last year about worrying about traffic on Stony. I think that the concern here is to be worried about traffic in your residential areas where the people live and walk and the kids play, as opposed to Stony, which has limited residential concerns, I guess, or even the aesthetics of it. And again, also, I just want to reiterate, the wetlands, I live right back there, it is always marshy. There is just all sorts of animals that live there. I'm not a big environmentalist. I'm not trying to play that up, but it is. I think it's somewhat important. And then again, the aesthetics. Again, it is a nice wooded, small enough area that a lot of people who live there, I think, chose to live there because of that. And to take that away, nothing against the developer or anything like that, but to take that away just to put 10 houses in, I think that you really do need to take the concerns of the people who have lived there already, as opposed to people who may live there in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My name is Maureen Milazzo. This
I
is
am
my
Robert
husband,
Milazzo.
Robert Milazzo. We live at 1315 Lydia Court. My husband and I have been residents nearly 40 years. We raised our children here. And our street, Lydia Court, is a cul-de-sac that runs perpendicular into Shelley Street, which is the road that will be affected by the additional traffic if this construction is allowed to happen. During the time that we've lived here, we've had many changes to this development, and we understand changes happen over the course of years. That's progress. But you know, the people who've lived in our neighborhood, people on Stony Street, we've gone through an awful lot of changes during the past few years, much more than any other development area in the town of Yorktown. We've had construction on the pipeline, which we've lived through for 2 years of banging and pounding, and that was unreasonable for people to have to live through. We've had the construction of Granite Knoll, which now we have additional traffic coming on to Stony Street, which also makes a big difference. We've had the Shrub Oak International School, which was formerly called the Phoenix Academy, which is also increasing increasing traffic in our development. Now, as Mr. Buchanan said, when you open up Spruce Street, which you're going to do in order to allow for this construction, excuse me, not Spruce Street, Shelley Street, that will definitely increase traffic. And I can tell you for a fact that when Sunny Ridge was constructed 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they opened up Spruce Street, which is the road that runs parallel to Shelley Street. That opened up a whole influx of traffic coming through our development. We see ATMs coming through. We see dirt bikes that belong in the hills coming through our development. They come in through they come in through Spruce Street. They come tearing around down Judy Road, up and around Shelley. It happens. You say you're going to be careful and it's not going to, but it will definitely affect us. I think the people in our development have gone through enough changes. I think by allowing something like this to happen, you're adding insult to injury. And for that reason, in addition to the traffic and the other issues that Mr. Castelli has brought out, I think that they should not be allowed to proceed.
And I have to interject too, on Stony Street with the increased traffic coming down Judy, when you look to the right, you can't see traffic coming. Telephone company has this big piece of equipment there, and with all the trees hanging down, so you have to creep out a little, and people coming around the bend have a tendency of having their foot on the gas. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've narrowly been missed by people coming around the bend there, because you have to edge your way out in order to see
I would like
coming
the
onto
planning
Stony.
board, not to interrupt my husband, but the planning board, if they were to come onto Stony Street, going south, right before you make your turn onto Judy Road, you will see a pole, a telephone pole. Every single season, there are all sorts of memorials to people who have had accidents right there. This is not an area where you want to increase traffic. This is an area you want to decrease the traffic, allow people to have a quieter lifestyle. We've had enough. This is too much for the people in our development to have to go through. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? How are you?
Evening. Tim Sullivan, Lydia Court, neighbors of everyone who's spoken here earlier. And they've eloquently stated, I think, all of our concerns regarding the proposed development. And I just want to just emphasize, two of the points that were previously made. The first one is traffic. Definitely going to be an issue. And yes, I've been living at Lydia Court with my family for 19 years. And we bought the place because it was on a cul-de-sac in a dead-end street. It's a great place to have kids, a great place that you can enjoy a walk or riding your bikes or playing stickball in the street. And with this extension, it's not going to happen. It's going to be dangerous. And for the reasons already stated, that it's a real concern. And then the other concern is property values. I mean, there was a big point for buying where we did. And this is going to impact our lives, our livelihood, our quality of life, and our property values, potentially. Please consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, so as stated earlier, this is the very, very beginning of this process. So this is the public informational hearing. The applicant has a lot of work to do. They're going to be back and forth to us. I would keep in touch with the website. There's ways to get alerts. There's ways to get the stuff sent to you via email. So I would definitely keep in tune to that as this moves forward. Any questions from the board?
I actually had one. Is the road a paper road right now that's proposed, the extension, or is it
No.
going through?
No, it's an actual road,
Oh, it's an actual road.
both of them.
And when you could see when they
That they stopped.
just ended it, yeah. John, Jim, anything to add?
I have nothing at this time.
No.
Okay. Anything from the board? Do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody, for showing up for this. We really appreciate your input, and we take it seriously. And I ask you to please stay in touch with the planning department as this moves forward, so you can be involved of which way it goes.
And if I could take a request, I noticed that a letter was sent to Mr. Buchanan and to Mr. Castilli, but the rest of the area that was directly affected, we were not notified of this. And if it weren't for our neighbors to let us know, we would have been in the dark. So wouldn't it be better if someone from the town were to notify us what was happening?
So there's a requirement for notification that the applicant is required to fulfill. It doesn't hit everybody, sorry, but it does hit affected areas, directly affected. So the hope is that if anybody does have concerns, that they reach out. But there is a limit. You can't, be overbearing with that either. But there is a notification notice.
But just to the immediate people that are affected?
That's correct.
Okay. So we can't change that?
No.
So that more people are
The-
notified?
right,
Because many
yeah.
of the people that I notified today said, gee, I wish I had known, we would have come.
The best thing to do is you can sign up to get agendas of all the meetings. So this way it comes into your email, so you will see when, anytime this comes on the planning board agenda or any other agenda it may be on. That's the most effective way. This way you'll get notified of when it's on a work session and it's just being discussed, so you can follow it even closer than you would with these
Okay,
notifications.
so how do we do that? How do I sign up?
It's on the website. If you need some instruction, you call the planning department, we'll walk you through it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll give everybody a minute. Thank you very much. Have a good night. No, there's no.
You want to put them down? No, we have them.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Northern Westchester Executive Park. This is a public informational hearing. Location is 2651 Strang Boulevard. Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing?
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor? I see again, no Dave Sessions.
You know, I told him that, and he was flattered. He's got more hair now.
Right? How are you?
Very good. You?
Good, thanks.
All right. Good evening. Joe Tremelli, principal with Kellett Sessions Consulting. With me tonight is Angelo Martino from Cardarelli Design Group, the architect. And we're here before you representing GHP Strang LLC and their property at 2649, 2651 Strang Boulevard, known as the Northern, did that not sync up right? Sorry. Known as the Northern Westchester Executive Park. We're before you for the informational hearing for an amended site plan approval for a parking expansion to the existing facilities. The property sits on the north, is to the left of your page, sits on the northwest corner of the intersection of Strang and Route 202. Strang Boulevard actually bisects the parcel. Parcel 1 is to the west side of Strang. It's about 18.5 acres in size. Parcel 2 is about 5.5 acres in size, sits to the east side of Strang. The second parcel, the smaller of the two, is undeveloped. It's a wooded area. It's got a watercourse running through it. All of the development is on the east side of Strang, which also happens to, it's bordered to the west, further to the west by the Taconic. So just to give you a sense of where it is. The property, as I said, is developed with two existing office complexes. There's about 700 parking spaces on the property, the majority of which are located on the southern side of the building, both buildings. The purpose for the amendment and the request to the expanded parking is really to help fill some occupancy in the lower level of the northern building, the larger building. The northwest corner of that building has a lower floor, and access to it for pedestrians and vehicles is somewhat limited considering the size of the site. There's only 60 parking spaces roughly on the north side of the building. And as you can see, you know, anybody parking on the south side, it's basically it's pretty much of a chore to get to that lower level on the north side of that building. So what the owner would like to do, and what we're requesting, is a small lot, 25 parking spaces at the lower level that would provide some immediate parking facility for a tenant that would occupy that lower space. It would be accessed off of the existing upper parking lot. You know, the existing parking spaces would be rearranged in that upper lot slightly to allow for that 24-foot driveway to go through and down to the lower lot. There would be no loss of spaces in that upper existing lot. We were able to reconfigure it in a way that maintained the current parking count. And then, as I said, there would be 25 spaces down below, one of which would be accessible. And we provided a small bump out and turnaround area for a loading dock for that lower space. Not knowing what the tenant would be, again, just trying to provide some opportunity for some flexibility, keeping in mind that that loading dock, it wouldn't be more than a typical FedEx or UPS type truck, probably primarily vans, and it's only the one dock. That area of the property, pull up an aerial, is largely open lawn area right now. It's, you can see further to the north is a densely wooded buffer between our property, the residential properties to the north. It's about at least 200 feet from the edge of the driveway to the nearest homes, to the rearmost portion of the rear accessory structure to the home. So that the dimensions I'm showing are to some sheds that are in the rear of the property and the like. The only real, I guess, bulk zoning requirement that we had to maintain was to ensure that the parking was no closer than 50 feet to the property line, and that commercial parking was no closer than 100 feet. We've met both of those conditions with this plan. I don't know if you could see, the 50-foot setback is pretty much the exact line of the curb for the upper parking lot, and we've met that. And there is no commercial parking other than the loading space, which is obviously up against the building. So no issues meeting that requirement. There will be a series of retaining walls that are required. There's one along the left side, or I guess the right side as you're driving down the driveway. Just because of the space limitations between the driveway and the property line, it's about 15 feet. We really don't have a lot of room to make up the grading. So that there's a wall anywhere from maybe 3 to 6 feet high along that side of the driveway. And similarly, in the upper right corner of that parking lot, another retaining wall about anywhere from 3 to 6 feet in height. It gets a little taller as you get closer to the building. I don't know if you're familiar with the site at all, but there is a slope between the upper parking lot and that lower lawn area that we need to work within. When we were last before you, you did mention the need for the SWIP. We were obviously aware of that. We are in the watershed. We will require filing with the DEC. We're prepared to do that. We are under any thresholds that will require review and approval by the DEP, so we don't need that. But we have prepared a SWIP. We've submitted it. Your town engineer has it. We've done testing, soil testing with him. He's witnessed it. So I think we're well on our way in that respect. There are 3 trees that need to be removed to create the parking lot. There are no wetlands or floodplains on this parcel. There are wetlands and floodplains on the smaller parcel on the other side of Strang, but we're well beyond any regulated buffers. I think that's all I have. You want to maybe show an elevation?
Yeah, I believe somebody requested an elevation of the walls, what they will look like. I guess I don't have to show this, we can show that, right?
Yeah, I have it here. This plan, right?
Yeah. So, the upper level, the upper elevation is the cross-section through the parking structure, the parking lot, sorry, varying from 3 feet plus or minus all the way up to 6 plus or minus. There's some cars that you can see for scale. They're really not much taller than me, and I'm not that tall, so. And then the other elevation is the section elevation looking through the drive, but standing, if you were, I guess, at the end of the property line of the residential area, looking at the wall. It's a little larger in scale, but we're also going to have a series of trees to kind of block that wall and to kind of also respect the privacy of the residents somewhere.
They were proposing a row of evergreen trees along the northern property line to act as a buffer and screen any visual impact from the retaining wall and any lighting or vehicles leaving that parking lot at night with headlights, try and mitigate that.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any questions or
Well,
public.
this is a public informational hearing, so public can come up and ask any questions you have. If you can just come up one at a time. Just state your name and address for the record, please. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm Lori and Frank Melagrano, 2689 Strang Boulevard. We live adjacent to the office park and the parking lot. So my first comment is that there's a lot of parking there. As the gentleman said, there's 700 parking spaces. There's a smaller lot that runs adjacent to our house, our backyard, and then there's a larger, what's that, on the south side?
Yeah.
There's a huge lot there. So I would hope that the intent of doing this is not out of laziness of people. There's a lot of parking there, and the smaller lot, I'm
Never
not
full.
It's
Even
never
before
full.
COVID, it was
Right,
never full.
right. And the larger lot, I believe that there's a path that they could walk down the stairs and enter the building there. And then, my concern is with this road that's going to go down, you know, that's our backyard. We look at our back and, you know, now there is trees there, but the trees that are there, a lot of them are dying, and a lot of what is densely, you know, covering is vines growing on dead trees. And there's also then closer to where the street is going to go down, there's a big gap. And I know they're going to put some trees, so my concern is that there is ample covering that is put there, because when I sit at my dining room table and I look out in my nice backyard and all the woods, there is that big gap there, which right now isn't a concern because there's nothing. And I don't want to hear cars going up and down that street. Now they're saying there's going to be another loading dock, because I hear, you know, trucks, you know, now, which it's minimal because there's only one loading dock, but I'm concerned, you know, visually to look out in my back and see cars going down when there's already a lot of parking there. And as I said, there's trees that are there, but, you know, a lot of the covering is because it's dead, it's vines growing on dead trees. So I don't know if a proposed visit is going to happen. You're welcome to come into my backyard and see. You know, but to just look at what is currently there, it looks green and plush, but
It looks horrible.
but it's you know, it's dead trees that have vines on them. And as I said, there is a lot of parking there now. And I know you had questions
Yeah.
about the type of trees.
Yeah, I know it says you got proposed evergreens, so I don't know what kind of evergreens you're planning on putting in there. But if the other gentleman said the wall's gonna be 4 to 6 feet high, and I'm assuming they're not gonna be on top of the wall, they're gonna be below the wall. So for screening, I'm assuming we're going something pretty big to start with, 10, 12 foot. Because if the wall is already 4 to 6 feet, and you're gonna be another at least 6 feet above, am I right or am I wrong?
I don't know.
No, you
You're
wait
not
till the
really-
end. Let's see if anybody else, and then we'll,
Yeah, so that's what I was curious
Yep.
about. Also, like the current road that they have cut in there for construction is only, you know, I know it says 50 feet for parking. That road's probably, if this stone wall that's there is the property line, the road they have cut in now is only about 14 feet. So I don't know what that, you know, what the setback is for a road. I know for a shed it's like 25 feet, but I could put a road in right along my property line, and that's fine.
yeah, it's different zoning, depends on where it is.
So that was the other concern.
Okay.
And I know on one of the plans, you have a big circle up at the top for the proposed stockpile of soil. Yes. You might want to put some silt fence around it already.
It's already there.
Oh,
But that's, I
That's
don't know.
right, I saw that on the plan. And you've got a pile there, probably about 10 feet tall.
That's it.
That's it?
So I would appreciate you just taking those comments into
Yep, absolutely.
consideration. Because
Thank
that's
you.
our, you know, that's our backyard.
understood.
And that's what we look at. And, you know, as most people say, you know, you live, you know, it's never been a problem because there is some covering there and I have nobody behind me, but I'm concerned about having added traffic when there's already a lot of parking there. And it shouldn't be just to have people not walk farther, you know?
You know, if you wanted to clean up all the crummy stuff, that's that wooded area all the way down to Strang and plant evergreens all the way down, that wouldn't be a bad idea either.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
All right,
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Anybody? Again, this is a public informational. This is the first flush to the residents. I don't know if you want to answer any of those questions now, or?
So with regard to the driveway, not a road, but the temporary road that's there now was required to gain access to the lower level. There is some work going on in the building. It's all permitted. They're doing some interior retrofit. That's why that road is there. We could certainly visit the site. We weren't involved in that particular aspect of it, but we're obviously representing the client.
Right.
We will go to the site and we'll see what erosion controls are needed to,
Thank you.
and make that a better
Can I
situation.
suggest that they report back to you that the erosion controls are taken care of properly?
That would be.
Since there is no, I don't know if the existing building permit has any erosion sediment control plan.
Okay.
It should, but
Yeah, I don't know that, but we'll certainly,
Yeah.
we'll talk to the client if they're, I don't know that anybody's been retained in that aspect for that part of the project,
Does
but we'll
any-
certainly visit the site.
yeah, any any action you're taking in furtherance of this goal is really now in front of the planning board.
Understood. Not a problem. We'll take a look at that. With regard to the trees, we're thinking green giant arborvitae. They have a fairly narrow stance, and they'll work well on that area that we have available to us. They grow very fast. So, even at a 8-foot planting height, within a couple of years, they grow 1, 2, 3 feet. I've seen them a year. So they'll have a wall of green to look at. And as I noted, that wooded buffer between our property and their homes is largely deciduous trees. So, of course, in the winter, you don't have the benefit of all that vegetation. So I think with this proposed screening, it will only supplement that. And then with regard to parking, I think, unfortunately, laziness can be a part of human nature, and it's just, in reality, a very long walk from the southern side of the south building to this northern end. A lot of the reason why that smaller parking lot's been empty is because the vacancy of that particular section of the building has been so low. They've had a very hard time over the years leasing that portion of the building because of the access, because of the length for their, either the office workers or visiting public using that space. It's just been a tough sell. So we're hoping with this, small lot here, that would only improve things a little bit. I think that was all the questions.
In regard with the parking, currently it's over 600 feet away from the 700 spots area, and also it's not ADA accessible, the bottom floor.
Right.
So this is also achieving the accessibility to the bottom floor, because this building actually doesn't have an elevator, even though that bottom level has a second floor.
Right.
So this is achieving two things, with the ADA accessibility with the ramp and parking.
Okay.
Yeah, that is actually something we both neglected to mention in the presentation initially. There are two areas, almost lost the computer. There are two areas, the existing upper entry. Come on. Okay. So you see that gray shaded, what looks to be a sidewalk adjacent the upper parking lot. Let's see, this area here, that's a new proposed ADA accessible ramp. Currently, there is no ADA access on that side of the building. There's only a staired entrance to that space. And then the lower, we're proposing a ramp, ADA accessible ramp to the west side of the building to an existing entrance.
Okay. What work are they doing out there where they're digging up and creating such a pile?
So actually, they were demoing the interior of the second floor, of the lower level. And they had to bring a dumpster around, because there was no way to get it out.
This sounds like soil.
Yeah, sounds
So they built a temporary access drive, right?
Temporary
Okay.
access, temporary.
Oh,
So that should have erosion control.
It was
You
the
could
only
actually-
way, yeah, it was the only way to get a dumpster back there.
It's soil.
Right, that's this.
I have a picture over here on the
Oh.
aerial. You can see it there.
That was at 10 minutes to 7 tonight.
That's a lot of soil. That doesn't look like,
A walkway.
no.
Well, last time I was there, it was like a month and a half ago.
That's a lot of material.
But that's not in our domain.
Well, if they're dependent on, it depends on what's creating this condition.
Well, as John mentioned, we'll take a ride out to the
All
site.
right, if you could.
I'm not aware of what's going on currently. I did take those pictures probably the week before we made our initial submission, and you
Yeah.
can see in that lower picture, the temporary road is there. There is some erosion controls in place, but obviously things change over time. We'll take a ride out and see what's going
If you
on
could.
and recommend any corrections to clean things up.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? John?
Well, I'm going to hold off because there's plenty of time for this application to
Yeah.
be refined. So rather than belabor this, I will hold until we see him again.
Jim? Anything in your
No
end?
legal issues here.
Dan? He left? All right, no worries. Anything else from the board?
No.
All right, then. Do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing for the Northern Westchester Executive Park?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you all
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. If you could please let us know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good luck, buddy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. All right, we're gonna move out of our regular session and move into the work session. Do I have a motion to close the regular portion and move into the work session.
Oh, second.
All's in favor? Aye. What'd I do?
Nothing.
You can't see who's making the motion, can you? You're gonna have to guess.
Their voices are a little distinctive.
He's trying to throw him. He's a ventriloquist. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 3666 Old Yorktown Road. This is a discussion of a fence. Is the applicant here? Oh, that's twice. Okay. Then we'll move on to number 9, which is McTaggart Residence. This is the Spano subdivision, Lot 1. This is a discussion of a site plan, 2241 Sawmill River Road. How are you?
Good. Paul Berthet, ARQPC, representing the McTaggarts. Last we talked, this is for a development of a previously approved lot by a subdivision approved in 2002. The last we spoke, there was a question whether or not we could just provide for a sewer easement that would allow for an sewer main extension to service uphill properties. The owner had no problem with that. We modified the plan to show an easement that would allow for an 8-inch sewer main to connect up to the other parcels in 118. I spoke with Joe Arena, I spoke with Dan Ciarcia. Everyone seems to be on board. It makes sense to provide that sewer main. Do you have any other questions?
So what is changing?
Nothing. We're proposing, well, no, that's not true.
The finished floor elevation change. That's
Right.
You have to look at that as a matter of all of your resolutions.
From the approved subdivision.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Is this?
We shifted the house a little bit away from the wetland setback. Where the SSDS is shown on the plans, it's now not necessary because there's sewer. So we're able to slide the house up a little bit, get a little bit further distance from the wetland setback, and therefore raise the height of
Gravity or pump?
gravity. In all the other houses on 118, if that gets built, would be also gravity.
Yeah.
If that application comes before you.
It's really an overall improvement to the lot layout because eliminating the septic area moves you further away from the wetland. So the 9-foot differential is really because the house is moving up the hill, not because they made the house crazily taller.
Oh, it's a win-win.
Yeah, so it's a win-win.
Okay. Anything from the board? We're good?
Good.
All right, what's the next step here?
You have a resolution?
Is it in here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Robin might have put 2 of the applications together to test us. Just give me 1 second here.
You don't have it?
Thomas left.
Oh, here it is. Gotta call Thomas back.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so in front of us, we have a neg deck for the same property. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye. And there it is. We have a resolution approving a site plan change in finished floor elevation and stormwater pollution prevention permit for the Taggart residence. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You know,
Robin's trying to confuse us.
Boy, that was a win-win. Certainly, right?
Yeah.
So easy.
Okay, next on the agenda, number 10, we have a town board referral This is the Apollino permit. How, say it again?
Apollonio.
Sorry. I
Takes an
believe
Italian
me.
to do it right.
I can't say my own name right.
Can I approach the bench? or-
By all means, please. Oh, my God. I should have stayed in school.
Okay, as you mentioned, this is a referral from the town, Steve Marino, 10 Miller Associates. This is a referral from the town board. Property on Baldwin Road. 1.8 acres. It was formerly the location of a residence back here towards the back of the site, which burned down a couple of years back. So Apollonius purchased the property and have been in the process of trying to go ahead with getting a new building permit for a new residence. There was the existing house, there was a pool, there's a small wetland area down here. There's a little runoff ditch on the west side of the one driveway, another runoff ditch on the east side of the other driveway. It's kind of a big U-shaped driveway. Existing pool, and there was a connection under the driveway that fed water via pipes into this little ponded area, which then overflowed down to a catch basin under Baldwin, and then goes off the north towards Mohansick. So the current proposal is to build a new house on the property. The new house would be located further down the hill. This was the existing, the location of the old house. That would be turned back to lawn area, so pervious surface up there. The new house would be located further down the hill. And parts of the site is kind of terraced down as you go down. This is a relatively steep hill coming down here, so the site historically has been terraced down. So the house is being moved down to one of the lower terraces. The existing pool is in the process of being removed. And the driveways would remain the same except shorter. You can see that the old driveway used to come up like this, the new driveway would cut off here. The wetland, as it was flagged, would remain. A stormwater basin is located down adjacent to that wetland, so that water collected from up here now has a place to get treated before it gets discharged into the wetland. I was asked to I worked with the engineer to prepare a planting plan for that basin, and at my recommendation, those different species were used. You know, it's really a redevelopment of an existing single-family residence property, moving it down, kind of concentrating the development to a smaller area, restoring some of the previously impervious surface, capturing the runoff, for a little landscaped area down here, a little landscaped wetland area down at the bottom of the hill. The pool would be moved to behind the house. Again, one of those terraces that already exists back up in there. So the town board is looking for comments, thumbs up from the planning board in order to move this forward.
By tomorrow.
Just wanted you guys to know about how much sewer this applicant is building. Don't forget that.
I won't. Because when the existing residence burned down, the health department wouldn't reapprove, as I understand it, the health department wouldn't reapprove the prior septic system because it didn't meet current codes. And the site is laid out such that there wasn't a place to put a new septic system. So the owner has agreed at his expense to put a force main on Baldwin Road and run it 2,500 feet up to the nearest sewer manhole.
Wow.
Which allows 11 property owners, as I understand it, along that way to connect to it should they decide they want to. And it will be built with valves in front of each of those residences, so at some point when they want to make that connection, they can.
Talk about being neighborly.
Yeah. You must really like this neighborhood.
Now, that sewer would be a force main?
A force main. But yeah, and they're currently, the plans have been submitted to the health department. It's gotta meet all town standards in order to be, it would be a public sewer when it was done.
But everybody would have to have their own pump.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how this.
That's a great,
And
great
at their
benefit.
cost. He's not gonna hook up the houses at his cost now.
No, they would, when they elected to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
connect, they'd have
right.
to buy the equipment to,
So he'd just
to
leave
connect
a,
into the
he'll leave a
There'd be a
snub.
stub for each
A snub, and then
house
they
along
could
the
hook up
way.
if they want, if they don't, they don't.
You know, because of the steepness of the hill and there's, a little bit of water coming down that hill, if anyone's septic system in the future fails, it's an option.
Right, and they probably won't be able to, if they couldn't
It'd
redo
probably
it.
cheaper to
Right.
connect to this than to
Right,
put a new septic.
without question.
Yeah, and actually, the health department, if they had a septic failure, the health department would likely compel them to.
Yeah, it's like
to-
500 foot now?
Sewer district already, as I understand.
So the question is mitigation. Because there's a wetland permit, and then there's tree removal. Most of the tree removal, to my eye, if not all, is within the wetland or wetland buffer. So therefore, any mitigation for trees really comes under the wetland permit. And then, of course, there's the disturbance in the wetlands, which we acknowledge is already mostly disturbed, previous home and so forth, but yet nonetheless, there has to be some written mitigation plan, so to speak, whether it is verbiage or a plan or a combination of both, so that the town board can approve this and have a record of what their approval actually is, rather than, discussions and going back to meeting minutes. So,
John,
but-
if I could ask, is it is it as relates to the tree law and in terms of replacement of trees, or is it wetland and buffer mitigation enhancement kind of thing?
I think the component of the wetland and wetland buffer mitigation is the larger component, but if you look in the tree law, when you remove trees within a wetland, you don't need a tree permit, but you have to do some mitigation for that loss, and you can use the mitigation measures that are in the tree law.
I mean, putting,
Yeah, that's my
I-
point
I
exactly. at
think
the
I've
meeting.
seen that plan,
Putting
and
the
I-
sewer in there is mitigation.
It's a later version of that
And
plan.
that's,
Okay.
yeah.
that's,
There's more
Right.
plants and trees on this plan.
Right, so my recommendation is that
Okay.
you recommend that the town board condition their approval to have a mitigation plan that is written and then accepted at staff level and then sent back to the town board. They can move forward, but they just have to do a little bit more work after the fact. This way, they can get their approval to move whatever they need to move forward. And in the interim, while the town board, is not having meetings for the rest of August, some of that stuff can be worked on.
so I gotta ask the question, so the capability of hooking how many houses up? 11 houses.
Yeah.
So just the septic issue.
Yes,
And
that I think you can offer as mitigation. It seems plausible, but it needs to be written up, and you need to show that it's so many feet, and it is going to afford another 11 houses in the future could be hooked up, and that there will be environmental benefit to that. That's all that needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think
You
that.
really need a basis of your approval
Yeah,
in the record.
That would be the mitigation.
I think that, on our end at least, that environmentally, you don't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Especially to have all these people with the ability to hook up to that. And, that's some run.
Yes.
There's gotta be significant cost to that too, which I think would suffice any,
Agreed.
And I don't know, if they hook up, they should throw a couple of bones to the guy who built the sewer. A few bucks.
Unfortunately, it'll be ours, once that first person
Yeah.
connects, and,
That's true.
all we can do is say thank you very much.
that's, anything on your end, Jim?
What's that?
Anything on your end?
Nothing on my end.
All right, so John, you work on, I guess,
I'll send you
Language?
a draft memo sometime tomorrow that you can look at hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, so I can send it to the town board by the time they're meeting tomorrow night.
okay. That's gonna be a very beautiful home.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really something else that you're putting that sewer in for everybody.
It all started because our dog got hit. We used to live on Underhill, the last one before 129, the last house on the right-hand side going down the hill, where the blinking light is, and my dog actually got hit in front of my house, and I have two small children. Then we bought the lot. Before then we went to the Board of Health. The septic predated the Board of Health. And then we had to come up with Plan B, so this
There you
is
go.
Plan B, but this is 2 years in the making, so thank you.
That's beautiful.
Maybe we gotta move it by February.
Yeah, or else I gotta pay tuition, because I'm,
Probably go somewhere else.
right, we,
It's kind of coming down.
We'll see you tomorrow at the town board meeting, and you'll have everything based on, just finishing up that paperwork, but you'll have your approval.
Good luck to you.
thank you so
Re-
much.
Really nice.
Maybe I can put something
Yeah.
together tomorrow night as well.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
All the best.
Thanks, Chief.
That's great.
They seem really nice people.
Mhm.
I would have walked away from the property.
All right, next we got Home and Hearth. This is a discussion of a site plan. Location is 1750 East Main Street.
Yeah.
Into this store. You know, I have not.
It's unbelievable. Oh, it's a great place.
More than
Yep.
just
Crazy.
like fireplaces and stuff? Okay.
Big bucks.
Yeah.
Hi, your name for the record, please? I can't see you under the mask, Joe.
Joe Rena, Site Design Consultants. No technical assistance for this one.
Oh, look, you went old school.
I'm gonna let Robin handle the steering wheel. Home and Hearth is a existing retail operation there in Cortland. They sell fireplace equipment, stoves, wood burning stoves, pellet burning stoves, and pellets. And they're looking to move their operation from Cortland down the road here to Yorktown. The site is 1750 East Main Street. To give you a perspective, there's to the right is the Volkswagen dealership, and to the left is the I think it's an Exxon gas station to the left, and then after that is the Audi dealership. So what they're proposing to do is there's you want to go to the existing plan? Yep. So there's currently 2 buildings on the site now. There's an older frame residence that was had various uses. Last it was used as office space. It's vacant currently, and a storage building behind that. The property owner was the applicant was in discussions with St. Mary's Church down the road. They were going to donate the house to them and move the house to that property. COVID hit, and then that got put on the back burner, but that's certainly still on the table. They're looking to do that. So as you can see, a majority of the site is developed and disturbed. There's a DEC wetlands on the back side of the property, and the disturbance almost goes right up to that boundary and touches that boundary. Steve will give you a little more on that. So if you can go to the first sheet, Robin. See, I'm not the only one.
There.
There you go. We're proposing 2 buildings on the site. The main showroom, which is going to be 5,500 square feet. It's going to be 1 story. It's going to have a basement, which will also be utilized for storage. And did I mention that they also sell kitchens?
No.
No, they also sell kitchens. So anyway, there'll be a warehouse area in the basement area, as well as an additional storage and warehouse building off to the rear of the property there. Essentially, as I said, we're trying to stay within as much of the footprint of what's been already disturbed. This is the same wetland which goes behind the Volkswagen dealership, which if you recall, we were right up against that with the parking lot for that when we designed that one, and Steve came up with a really good mitigation plan for that. Otherwise, we comply in every other aspect other than that we're in the buffer, but we comply with all other aspects as far as zoning goes and parking and whatnot. Rob, you want to go to the last sheet? For stormwater, we're doing rain gardens, and you could see often there's 2 rain gardens that we're proposing. One will handle the majority of the site, which is the building and the parking area, and then that rear one will probably take mostly the roof runoff from the storage warehouse. That's the 4,500 square foot storage warehouse. That's all I have. I'm going to let Steve talk about the wetlands. snow and the mitigation.
Hello again.
Hey.
So as Joe mentioned, the northern part of the site is flagged DEC wetland. I delineated it last year. DEC has been out and confirmed the delineation, so we're all set as far as that goes. It's wooded wetland, beginning about 8 to 10 feet off of where the existing wetland boundary is. That first 8 or 10 feet, as is typical for the whole Route 6 corridor, has been disturbed in the past, so there's debris, there's invasive species, et cetera. But once you get beyond that, it's a pretty healthy wooded wetland system back there. Robin, if you could just drag it down a little bit, the other way.
Oh.
Sorry. You can see up there at the top, that's the Mohegan Lake outlet, the stream that comes out behind Mohegan Motors, the Volkswagen dealer, and then runs along the property line there. So that's, for context, that's the Mohegan outlet up there. So that's part of the larger wetland. As Joe mentioned, all of the development is going to be occurring in areas that are already impervious surface. It's, the areas that aren't the two buildings that are out there now are asphalt. So it doesn't really represent a change in impervious surface in the buffer there. And we are proposing the two stormwater management structures to provide stormwater management to the wetland, which doesn't currently exist. We're still working on final grading and mitigation concepts for the wetland, and as we move forward, we'll present more detailed drawings for you on that. Again, it's a Route 6, north side of Route 6 wetland situation. It's been developed. I do have aerial photos on a memory stick, but I'm not going to even try at this point to get them up there. But when we come back for the, we'll show that back as far as 1976, the limits of disturbance have been the same. There's that piece that goes up for some time. The Audi is that all right? There we go. You can see, what year was this one, Joe? Do you remember? Is this new?
This is mine, it's current.
Oh, that's current. Okay. Yeah. You can see where that portion of the asphalt goes out into the wetland above, and then the Mohegan outlet up there on the top. But going back to 1976, the area will show the same thing. That same area was cleared and paved for a number of years. One of the car dealers, whether it was Audi, it must have been Audi, used it for parking cars back in there as well. So it's historically disturbed. Storage area right now, there are pallets with pellets and such that they use at Home and Hearth without the benefit of stormwater management. So I think that's really our main mitigation for the development that's going on.
That's all I have. We'll start, we're going to be working towards more detail on this, and we'll come before you. At some point, I don't know when you think is appropriate, we'd like to have the PIH set up. I don't know if now is the appropriate time for that or not, or you want to see another review.
Why not? What do you say, John?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so we can set that up.
We can set you up, right?
Okay.
Just a quick question, the showroom is the total first floor at 5,500 square feet, is that correct?
I don't believe it's the total first floor. I think there's office space and whatnot in there.
But it's not warehouse storage.
I'll get clarification on that, John.
And then the other thing for the public informational, probably a good idea to have a map that shows the neighbors and some of the environs with the buildings and so forth.
Yep, for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Shrub Oak International School. This is a discussion of the amended phasing plan. Location 3151 Stony Street.
Good evening, good to see you all.
How are you?
Nice to kind of see you live and in
Yes.
person.
How are you?
All good, thanks. Very briefly, I'm here, I'm joined by, there she is, Donna Maiello from Divney Tongue and Schwabe, as well as our clients, Michael and Brian Koffler, in connection with the Shrub Oak International School. Fairly simple. We've discussed this in the past. We have some issues that were addressed in our original site plan that we had contemplated would be constructed in Phase 1 of the initial building of the school. We'd like to defer those, the Kofflers would like to defer those to the second phase. They involve the helipad, the animal barn, some landscaping, a dumpster pad, generator pad, and a pathway. Donna can walk you through that. There's nothing new here. There are no new impacts. If anything, this is actually a reduction in the initial impact of the project. The school is doing well. There are over 50 students enrolled. Things are going quite smoothly, and we're delighted that the town, the building department, and all of the professional staff has been working very cooperatively with our clients. So we'd just like to straighten out the site plan. I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, whether a public hearing is required for this. I do know Robin was kind enough to send us a draft resolution a couple of hours ago. We went through that. Donna and I went through that. It looked acceptable to us, but I'll defer to to John and Jim on procedure. We are hoping that we can move this along, but Donna's here with some technological capability, I hope, if we need to show you the plans.
We did a walk.
Yes, you've seen it all.
That's it.
Yeah, I think we've been to the site. I think we were very impressed with the way everything's been working, and
Donna, you may not need to use it. Relax.
but I think the reception for the board was one of really a nice job. Yeah.
So there's no added uses?
Not that we're here for right now.
Or no expanded of any of the uses, right?
Diminution.
Right, and so it's really moving some of the uses that we've seen before in Phase 1 into Phase 2, and vice versa, right?
Precisely correct.
That's essentially it, okay.
That's it.
My view on it, and I defer to Jim, of course, is that it doesn't rise to a public hearing, but I defer to Jim.
All right, I'm gonna look at that now.
So,
Take a break.
just for whatever assistance it may be, Jim, there is a sentence in one of the provisions in the code about insubstantial changes. And I thought maybe you could wrap yourself up in that, 300-151. I'm going to be candid, I don't think it's directly on point, but the spirit is embodied in the code that if something like this is in front of the town, I don't think it's necessarily worthy of public comment. But if you need to do a public hearing, we can't wait to come back. If you don't need to do a public hearing.
Be good.
Do you want to table this for a minute and move on to the next one and give you a minute to take a look at it?
I think that'd be.
Would that be all right?
That's, if it's good with you, it's good with us.
Yeah.
We'll
All right,
wait
so why
around.
don't you hang out for a minute? We'll move to
Terrific.
the other item and then move back.
You got it.
All right, thank you. Oh, yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is the Foothill Street Solar. This is a discussion of site plan and special permit.
Mr. Wood, Mr. Tickett.
How are you?
I'm well. For the record, my name is Joe Shanahan. I'm employed by Con Edison Clean Energy Businesses. I represent the applicant, Yorktown NY1 LLC, in connection with this proposal. As members of the board and Mr. Teggett are probably painfully aware, I've now been before this board for a little over 3 years in connection with this proposal. Admittedly, in that 3 years, I think the scrutiny of this board, the scrutiny and suggestions of Mr. Teggett have made this a much better plan and proposal than it was when it was first introduced to you. And of course, that's the intent of these proceedings. During that time, with Mr. Teggett's input, we have substantially enhanced the landscape screening plan to supplement the natural screening that will be left all the way around the project. We now have a plan to plant 200 trees, primarily along Foothill Street, to eliminate any visual impact along the roadway. There are additional plantings around the site. I've mentioned before, those plantings are all going in at 6 to 8 feet in height. We're not planting 3 feet arborvitaes and waiting 20 years for them to grow. That landscape plan alone has a cost estimate of a little over $150,000. We've submitted a mitigation plan for the tree removal at the site to both the town board and the planning board. We completed the public informational meeting back in April.
Just FYI.
At the conclusion of that meeting, we were requested to follow up on 3 items. We had included our battery energy storage system in the site plan and request for special permit. But as Mr. Tegater and his staff pointed out, under your new BESS ordinance, we need a separate application for that, so we did file that. There is a provision in the BESS bylaw with regard to noise or sound level limitations within certain distances from the facility. While it's not required by the bylaw, the town does have the right to ask for evidence that we comply with that noise standard. Rather than wait for you to ask for it, we went out, we engaged HMMH, which is probably the best known international sound and noise firm in the United States. They did the study. They found that our proposed system does comply with your local law, and we submitted that to Mr. Tegater's office. Under your tree ordinance, we were asked to submit a tree inventory and assessment. We engaged Bartlett Tree to do that. We had a state-certified arborist go out and develop that inventory and assessment. And lastly, we were asked to submit our decommissioning plan. That is our plan for removal of the system and site restoration if for any reason the system ever was abandoned or at the end of the life of the project. We hired a professional engineer to develop that decommissioning plan. We submitted that along with a detailed cost estimate for removal and restoration, along with our sample surety bond, financial surety under your bylaw from Travelers Casualty and Surety Company. So at this point, Mr. Chairman, after 3+ years, I think we have done anything and everything that's been asked of us. I think we've done anything and everything that's been suggested to us. I would think at this point it might be appropriate to ask the board if we might move forward with a public hearing on this project.
So I appreciate all your comments. I will tell you, as after the public informational hearing, we had opportunity to meet with members of the town of Hutt Valley, excuse me, and the school district. And we did do a walk with them around their district and saw some of the concerns they had. And I also have a memo from the Conservation Board dated July 22nd of this year, where there's still things that they've asked for that they haven't seen. And I will tell you, Aaron Bach couldn't be here, but I'll share his comments with you, and I agree with his commentary. Due to the large nature of the area that's being developed, or the solar is being put on, and what we've seen from our neighboring town and school district and our conservation board, and other comments that have been made to us, and I know that, John, that the town's got a consultant on board now. Environmental consultant?
That's correct.
I think it would be a good idea, and I'm looking to the board for your input, for us to engage that consultant to look at this, because I know we're getting back and forth with the Conservation Board, and again, what we've heard from our neighbors was concerning. There is the whole aesthetic thing, but I think the environmental part of it is the most concerning. I think we should engage that consultant. I don't know how that works.
Typically how it works is we ask them for their proposal for the work that we are asking them to do.
Okay.
And they give us that proposal, then we check with Mr. Shanahan's team and Con Ed and get them to agree to, reimburse the town for that amount of money. And then they go off on and do their work.
Review?
And then they report to you, yes.
Okay. Any thoughts from the board?
No, I think we need it.
I think we need it too.
And I think Aaron Bach feels the same way. And So that's where we're headed now.
I understand where you're headed, and all fully understandable, but as you're aware, we concluded our public information session fully 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And as this is only being presented to me this evening,
It's the
4
first time
months
we've seen
later,
it since then.
is there any possibility where you only meet monthly, that we might schedule the public hearing for September? I don't expect it to be closed at that point, but in the interim, during those 4 weeks, we can engage the consultant, move forward on that, and at least open those proceedings
I
in
would say,
September.
okay, if the consultant has his report ready by then, in September, we could wrap it up.
Well, your only problem is the town board only has one meeting until September at this point.
See, we had
Tomorrow.
we added a meeting.
That's good. We've added about 7 or 8 this year, but that's
I'm
okay.
just giving you a hard time.
I mean, you could open it and hold it open until you finish the things that need to be vetted by the public. I mean, you could do that if you choose to.
That would be
Okay.
greatly appreciated. I understand what the
Yep.
board's doing and
We'll give
why
you-
they're doing it.
Let's do that.
All right, so we can set that up,
Set them up and you could hold it open if you don't have the report.
and we'll get a scope between us and the conservation of what they're looking, and I would think the tree group too.
I'm sorry?
We could get a dialogue back and forth of what we'd be looking for.
Yes.
What the conservation board, the tree board would be looking for, so that we can get it answered once.
Yes. I'm looking at the Conservation Board's memo.
Yeah. You seen it?
They have seen the alternative plans.
They just said it's not, and it's not,
I'm aware of the Putnam Valley School District concerns. We addressed those in writing 2 months ago.
Well, we went-
Conservation Board, I'm not sure. Nancy's usually very good at sending me everything, so I probably have it and don't recall it.
all right, so we'll get you set up for September,
That'd be great.
and we'll work between now and then to get everything else in order.
Okay, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, if you're ready, I can go back to Mr. Steinmetz's inquiry, and under the land development regulations, any amendment to a site plan has to follow the same procedure, except the fee can be reduced in half, so we're gonna have to hold a hearing.
We will.
And that may be something that we could recommend that the town board take a look at. It doesn't distinguish between minor or even ministerial amendments and major amendments. But that's something we should take a look at, because holding a hearing for this it's required, but it's a bit much, in my opinion.
Is there any way that we could skip a public hearing, or is this?
I don't think we can.
There's no
I don't
waiver.
see it as necessary.
No, there's no way to waive
There's no
it.
express waiver provision.
Right.
All right, so September?
How about, what's the next meeting, August?
Tomorrow.
Or you couldn't.
Or next week.
Next week,
is that-
yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to meet the notice requirement. Totally appreciate that.
All right, so September.
That'll have to be.
We'll take care of it. We'll come back in September.
Okay.
But I think on you see on our end that,
We understand. I mean, I said it myself. I went looking for it, and I did not see anything expressed. There are some municipalities, as Jim knows, that have waiver provisions in their site plan regs.
Okay.
So, be a good thing for the town board to entertain.
Absolutely.
again,
In fact, in some communities,
Don't
the
even-
building inspector can even make,
Yeah.
approve minor amendments on their own.
Well, we have that in ours, but it has to come to be looked at from the planning board or the planning department to make sure that anything that they're doing in terms of amendment is still in substantial compliance with the original site plan.
Oh, can we just then send it back to the building inspector?
Well, not with the phasing plan, because they need to have a record that shows what is the end game for phase one.
So let me just, at the risk of overstaying my welcome, let me just try it for 2 more minutes. Why are we even technically amending the site plan if we're not adding anything new? We're not saying we're not going to do these things. We're just going to do them later. So in effect, this is a construction phasing plan as opposed to a formal modification of a site plan. can we potentially, look, my clients wanted to make sure that the town knew they were not doing everything as quickly as they had said they were. So they wanted to be open and honest. Can we, by letter notifying the town, simply say, our construction sequence is changing, we've notified the planning board, we've presented this to the planning board, we'll see you when we come back for phase 2. I'm just trying to be creative.
If a phasing plan was approved as part of the site plan, then I don't see how we could do it without amending the resolution.
I'm not so sure it was so formally done, but Donna, you may know that better than I. I don't think we ever baked a phasing plan.
We had a phase 1 approval. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just schedule the hearing, and then we'll try to work out what we can on our own. But I think the board's sentiment is to have a resolution ready. That can be approved.
We'll see you in September. What's the date in September you want us back?
It's
Robin, when are we coming back?
The 13th?
13.
9/13? We'll see you then.
Okay.
Thank you for trying. We appreciate it, obviously.
Have a good night.
Stay safe, stay well.
Be well. All right, that is the end of our meeting. Do I have a motion to close the, do I have a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
How you doing?